piece of legislation mixing some good reforms with some nasty clauses and omissions. Bill C-23, which favors one party and hinders everybody else. It has some useful reforms, but it hinders the searching of facts with which to prosecute. There's no added power to track down and punish election fraud.
This is a reform bill, right?
No legal tools, no laws with teeth to ensure investigators can access every document that's needed, every crucial record, and make those who know what's going on talk. So the guilty won't get away again with fraud, just like they did in the last election.
You remember the 2011 election with thousands of complaints about voter fraud?
Elections Canada launched an investigation, but 3 years later, we still don't know who planned or carried out the scheme.
We know the Conservative Party database was a source for misleading calls, but because party workers refused to answer investigators' questions, and Elections Canada doesn't have the legal power to compel them to testify, investigators can't determine who was involved in the fraud, effectively stalling the investigation.
Elections Canada wanted more power to get testimony from witnesses, plus full access to party records that might be relevant.
But stronger investigation powers weren't included, leaving the field wide open for the same level of electoral abuse in our next election, with the offenders going equally unpunished.
Bill C-23, with its nasty, clever little clauses, like the one about inheriting money from supporters. There used to be no limit, but now it's $1,500.
After all, if these individuals weren't allowed to donate large amounts when alive, it shouldn't suddenly change upon their passing.
Interesting, since the Conservatives had no concerns about personal requests to political parties 8 years ago. However, in 2013, the NDP received $700,000 from supporters' estates. The Conservatives, a few thousand. What better way to weaken another party's financial strength than not harm your own, than to be concerned about large bequests and abolish them?
Bill C-23 says it raises spending limits in elections by only 5%, then adds a small exemption for all communications that ask a supporter to donate.
Political parties have strict spending limits on their election campaigns.
This keeps elections fair, so rich parties don't have an unfair advantage over less wealthy parties.
In an election, the cost of a party phoning a supporter, encouraging them to vote, is included in that spending limit.
With this clause, a party makes the same call as, "Hi, want to donate?" and poof, that phone call is not an election expense.
How much of a campaign's cost goes to contacting supporters?
20 to 25%.
So this bill says it's increasing campaign limits by 5%. But with this clause, it's really 25 to 30%.
And since there's no limits to this exemption, a little campaign creativity could give a party 20, 50, 60 more to spend. For parties that can afford it, of course.
Blowing the roof off campaign spending limits, designed to keep elections fair for all parties.
This is called the Fair Elections Act, right?
Must have been a typo.
Bill C-23, with that interesting clause that clearly forbids the chief electoral officer from speaking in public about anything at all, except how and when when to vote, or where and when to vote, and nothing else at all. Why should the head of Elections Canada not talk about democracy? He ordered not to discuss election issues we face, like helping seniors to vote, or encouraging youth, or helping those who cannot read.
This clause would make Canada the only democracy anywhere that bans the head of its electoral system from talking to citizens about their democracy.
What benefits would that give Canadians?
None. When the chief electoral officer can't speak publicly, we lose their keen eye on what political parties are doing.
Plus, all Elections Canada's research is shut down. Research that helps keep Canada's democracy strong in a changing world.
And it shuts down Elections Canada educational programs like Student Vote, which encourages Canada's youth to become involved.
So who benefits then?
Well, the Conservative Party was caught by Elections Canada and pleaded guilty to illegally moving $1.3 million around within its party during a campaign.
And the Elections Canada investigation into the widespread 2011 election fraud has embarrassed the Conservative Party, which hasn't yet explained how their party's carefully guarded database is connected to known fraudulent phone calls, or why their party workers are refusing to cooperate with investigators on this case.
So, if the Chief Electoral Officer can't talk to citizens about any ongoing investigations,
A lot of bad publicity could be prevented.
Which could be very beneficial to certain parties.
you
You figure?
Bill C-23, a bill of national importance to prevent more election fraud. A bill drafted, of course, with widespread expert consultation. Well, not really.
Not really? They used the 23 months drafting the bill for widespread consultation, of course.
No.
Consulted broadly with citizen groups?
No.
Met extensively with electoral reform experts.
Not that we've heard.
Had extensive input from other political parties?
No.
Developed the bill in close consultation with Elections Canada, which runs our elections.
No.
In 23 months, the Minister for Democratic Reform met once for a total of 1 hour with Elections Canada. But he says he read his reports.
But at least the draft bill went to Elections Canada for review and amendments.
No.
Then, after the bill was tabled in Parliament, it was sent across Canada for public input.
No.
So the only input for this bill came from the Conservative Party?
Bingo.
And this is the party that still has unexplained connections to the 2011 election scandal.
That's right.
Not very good optics, is it?
No. Bill C-23, it adds a new condition for election investigations, that all investigators must tell whoever they are looking at that they are under suspicion. Be careful, we're coming. Surprise, you're going to be investigated. And of course, no one in this situation would ever think of shredding or burning any evidence that might incriminate them, or even think about coercing or silencing a witness or anything nefarious like that.
Oh no, we're law-abiding criminals. You can safely give us lots of warning and that we're going to be under criminal investigation.
So this bill gives criminals a tool to conceal evidence and influence witnesses, but doesn't give federal investigators the tools to get to the heart of electoral crimes.
This is an honest reform bill. How?
manipulating